Here we go with the logo. I think it's 50 seconds. I probably should cut some of it out. I want to keep that. Whoops. I could do without that. I like that part. I think if from here on I should cut at the end of this thing here. I think from there I should cut to the end. I'm not sure how much that would take out, but I ran that by you. You probably know if you watched the last video or two. I've had some problems in the past with my video getting out of sync, and it's because I run some program. I edit like that onto the video or something else onto a video or into a video, and then the program processes it or does something to it, and I think that messes up. Anyway, today is September 20th of 2022. Several of you have mentioned an improvement in the way the room looks, and I agree with you 100%. And there's a little more I can do to it. And it's been a slow progress. Now I've got a chair over here that has just got stuff piled on the chair, everything. And the table that I've got over there, I need to get the stuff off of that. And there is room underneath. Let's see. I need to organize that a little bit better and stuff. But anyway, yeah, things I've got, it feels to me much better. I've got room to get through. Before it was kind of like a little bit like a maze, and I had to be careful not to bump my legs or something. Or back a few years ago, a scratch from a bed frame put me in the hospital. Got infected, put me in the hospital for 6 days, and so I changed speakers. I went to my Creative speaker. I'm using it. And I've thought about moving this computer, but I do that kind of stuff, and I shouldn't do that kind of stuff. I should get it organized or whatever, and then leave it alone. But I keep and that's just a characteristic of me for some reason. I'm not a neat person. Well, I think I'm a neat person. I'm not a neat person when it comes to, but I am, what's that dysfunction? When somebody, I saw a YouTube video where some people were filming a postman. He was picking up mail from these boxes that are on the street where you put mail in the box, and then the mailman comes and takes it out. And personality disorder? Anyway, they were filming him from across the street and laughing at him. And, he unlocks the door with his key, and he takes the mail out. And so he's emptied it, and he closes it, and then he locks it. And then he unlocks it, opens it up, reaches in there again to check to make sure it's empty. He closes it, he locks it. He opens it up. I finally stopped watching, and he reaches in there, it's empty, and they were laughing, across the street, and I don't think he could hear them. But now I'm not that way, but I do like certain things in order, and like cables. I plug things in on the floor. I have in this room, oh my God, I don't know how many electrical extension things. Like this thing here you see back here, there's an extension box on the floor. Screwed to the side of it is an extension thing for plugging things into. my electrical outlets, are ones that I purchased, and they have like two USB plug-ins on them and numerous whatever. And so there's one there. There's one behind my bed that's that way. There's anyway. There is just a bunch of these extension, all this kind of stuff. Now, one reason is I've got arthritis so bad. It is agony for me to have to reach down and plug something in and things like that. So I try to avoid that. And if I do have to get down on the floor, well, anyway, I use these ties too for cables, that are running along the floor or whatever. I put them together, which is kind of a wasted effort because I change things so often. One way I've freed up some room is, you see these plastic containers over here. I did have them sideways, but by putting them this way, I guess that's still sideways, but that gave me room over here for this 50-inch little stand, and there's space underneath it, and then there's doors down there. And now and of course there's a refrigerator next to it, which I think you can barely see, and then in front of the window that is there is a gigantic solar cell panel. And in front of that is a big thing that the solar panel would go into, but there's no use doing it just for a small part of a window thing. But it has a massive battery there that you can keep recharged, but you can recharge it also by plugging it into now that solar cell and that thing with a roller or whatever. My daughter Hillary got that for me, and there's also over here. See with the hat? Okay, the hat there on the lamp, and then this yellow thing is a rechargeable. There's a rechargeable battery in that, and I keep it plugged in. And I've mentioned this before, but it's sort of funny and at the same time sort of sad. For some reason I had moved it. It might be when Texas's power grid went down for, seems to me like it was 3 days, but the family tells me it was 2 days. And so in the winter, we had no heat. I think over 200 people died here in Texas from the cold or from using a generator, and they died from carbon monoxide. One lady and her grandson, I think it was, they went down to the garage, or they went to the garage in their apartment complex or house, I think it was house, and started the car to warm up. And, it's just cases like that. Oh, okay. I think there's another one of these, which I broke. I told Hillary, Hillary bought that for me too, by the way. And another one. And in this room, stuff was just stacked every which way. And one of them fell off and broke the plug thing on it. I think it's a plug thing that you screw in. Can't remember now. I could find it here. Anyway, that one broke off. And I don't see any way to easily replace it. It's just a plug, needs to, and then screw, because I don't see any way to screw it into the case. The thing is broke. And so it's been idle. But I think that when we had the power outage for a couple of days, I took this, I think the yellow one, the other one's red, I think. I took it into the living room where we had a fireplace going. And the fireplace, I guess I'm not a man because I don't know anything about fireplaces. When I was a kid, in the first house my parents had, we had a coal furnace in the basement. and on the side of the house was a chute or something, and the coal company would come and, dump it, go down, and then I would scoop coal, and it lasted quite a while. As a kid, I'd have been in second grade to fourth grade or something like that. Of course, I had to go through the second grade twice, so there was an extra year there. But I would shovel, the coal into the thing. And anyway, back to my story. Here, I think it was this one. I moved it in there. Oh, we were using the furnace or the fireplace. Oh, that's what I was doing. Is saying, hey, I shoveled coal into a thing, but I really am not a. I joined the Boy Scouts, but you had to memorize a few things, and I have problem memorizing things. Well, I can memorize some things, I come from a state that raises corn and cotton and cockleburs and Democrats, and for all the eloquence, it neither convinces me nor satisfies me. I'm from Missouri, you've got to show me. The state of Missouri is called the Show Me State. But anyway, this was taken in, I think, because we had the fireplace going, which you had to be right in front of the fireplace. And our cat was there for a short period of time. The first time there was one of the logs that there again, Hillary purchased a whole bunch of these logs. And two, if you look at some old videos, you'll see this room was filled with these logs in boxes. Hillary bought a bunch of those for us. Hillary's our daughter, one of the daughters. Anyway, as soon as they thing popped out of that, our cat took off and went underneath a chest of drawers or something where there was one drawer out or something, and that we didn't see her till Texas decided to turn the power back on. Well, anyway, so that was left in there and plugged in. No, I don't think it was plugged in. So I guess the battery was going down on it. So anyway, I'm in here. We have power back. And I hear screaming. And it's my ex-wife. And I go in there, what in the hell, and she's, stop, so I forget what she says, stop it, stop that noise, and I'm right there. And then my son, I think it was too, the noise, And I couldn't hear it, because that tone, the tone that it is, zero, and it was extremely loud. I mean, they were in agony. And I had to say, what noise? And then I saw, and I said, is this making a sound? And the ex-wife was, God damn, is it making a noise? So I hit a switch or something. I said, is it stopped now? And she said, yeah, it's stopped now. That's how bad my hearing is. But I love, the electronic type of stuff that we have nowadays, cell phones and that kind of stuff. I have a Pixel. I think it's Pixel 4a. And I really want, like, the sizes now are what, 6.2, things like that, and that's actually what I need. This screen is really kind of small for me, so I do want to get. Excuse me. I do want to get a bigger screen. That would help me out. Although I have small hands, like Donald Trump, very small hands. And I did not know that. I'm not somebody that's aware, like when doctors have asked me, things, I'm sort of not aware of. And uh, when I was working at CompUSA down in Florida, uh, the employees there, we had to, when inventory was done, we had to work, but they had a company came in, and almost all women, most of them black or Hispanic, would come in and do the inventory with their scanners. But we had to be there to make sure that they scanned everything. Well, anyway, and I was about the second oldest person there. Everybody else was young, and all the employees. And the girls that were doing the scanning started. I can't remember what they were saying, but it was like commenting about you have large hands, or something. It was, and then they were like, I can't remember what they were saying. I'll just have to make it up. But like, well, you have large, or you have, then you have small hands, and those are, they didn't say indicative or what, but like, that means, what does that mean, and that kind of stuff. Well, I knew, I'd heard that stuff, but I had never paid any attention to, and maybe that's why I never, for 30 years, I worked hospital security, and I was armed, for those 30 years. And, I had to shoot once a year to qualify and that kind of stuff. And I went through several, weapons during that, when it started out, the Board of Police Commissioners, which regulated the Kansas City, Missouri police officers, and the Private Officers Commissioning Unit, the same things that applied to the police officers applied to us. So we were required to only use a 4-inch revolver, and couldn't do Magnum, even if you're you could still have. I think you could have a Magnum, but you couldn't carry Magnum ammunition. And so I went through several weapons, and I never shot. I mean, I never had any trouble qualifying. And I wasn't too much worried about it. Some of the guys were. One guy was really worried. Well, I worked not at the first hospital, not at the second hospital. When I went to the third hospital, he worked there, and he had been in Vietnam, not in combat really, but I give him credit for it. Occasionally somebody would say something like, were you in, to him, were you in Vietnam? And, yeah. And he'd say, but I just did, I forget what it was, warehousing or stocking or something like, he was a clerk or something like that. He could have just said, yeah, I was in Vietnam. I mean, a lot of guys would. He said, I was in Vietnam, it was rough, or, whatever, that type of stuff. I give him credit for that. And then, too, after working with him for many years, the hospital put out or the security department put out a thing wanting to know how much education you had. And there was 25 security officers. And he had not a PhD, a master's. He had a master's in criminal justice or whatever, and so he listed that. He was the only one that had, that. There were some that had, 2 years of. I didn't have 2 years. I had almost enough. What I did was I just took the police science things, and I didn't take math. I wasn't interested in a degree. I just wanted, and stuff like that. But he, I give him credit for that. He had a lot of things I didn't like about, that I didn't like about him. I guess we were friends. Well, I thought we were friends. And as soon as I worked 13 years for that hospital, and of course he was already working there when I went to work there. and he would call me quite often and ask me what was going. When we were both working, there, he'd call and ask what was going on, all that kind of stuff. We never really talked about anything personal. It was always about, and of course, I always was 100% telling everybody I was working with what the situation was, or what new had happened, or what I knew, and he was always. And then as soon as I retired, and now he would call me, every few days. He'd be at work, he'd call me at work, that type of stuff. And then bang, I called, after I was no longer working, I called and I'm busy right now, which I could understand because occasionally you were busy and whatever. And I called a couple more times and he was busy each time. And then I could just tell, In fact, I think I said to him, well, do you not want me to call you at work? I could call you at home if you wanted. And he said, well, I said, would that be okay? And he was like, yeah. And I said, you don't sound like it. And he said, well, as long as you don't call me too much. So I never called him after that. All that time he was like, which he didn't need to do, because I always believed in informing everybody what was, when I was walking through the parking garage at 3 a.m. in the morning and I saw, the parking garage, there was no cars on those levels at all, but there was a body laying there, I immediately, before I was on top of it, let's hope this aircraft doesn't crash. We had one that crashed here a few days ago, a fighter jet. A bird flew into there's a video you can see, I think, on one of my things. Anyway, so I remember this one time I'm walking through the garage. It's pouring down rain, by the way, and I see off in the distance, a body laying on no cars around or anything, a body laying. So I immediately called. I'm not on top of it yet, but I see, somebody laying on the ground on yellow level garage or something like that, whatever it was, And so then the other officers start coming too, and I get there and it's just some guy that's been drinking and he's laying there. And then one time when I'd worked for 10 years out at a small hospital, 9 years, out where I lived. I loved that. I could almost see where I lived from the hospital. That was neat, not having to travel. And so anyway, by the time I was ordered back to the main hospital to work, I think about half of the guys, or 2/3, were new, and of course there was somebody there a supervisor, who did not like me, and everybody that he would run into, he was a security supervisor at the main hospital, and he didn't like me, and of course I didn't like him either because he didn't like me. I mean, that was the thing. And so for those years that I was out there, he tried to get me in trouble with the director of security and anybody he would run into at the main hospital. Like there was 2 doctors, they weren't together. This is, a doctor, and he says, "Oh, do you work out at Research Belton Hospital?" "Yeah." "Oh, okay. Well, you'll be working out there, and there's a security officer, Jim Howard or whatever, and he's a backstabbing SOB. Watch him." And he, like 6 months later or whatever, another doctor, down there goes down for some reason because I guess he's getting hired in, or actually they were a contract, but same thing. So both these doctors, had brought it up to me, and I think that's the point. I had to file a grievance, and which kind of humiliated this guy, because he'd been ordered not to let me go there, and the whole thing. Anyway, So, story time of an old man. Um, anyway, um, how long have I been doing this now? Okay, almost 30 minutes. So this is going to be a 30-minute thing. Um, oh, that I had hearing loss since like the first grade, I think. Because my hearing was tested in the second grade, and that's when I had a urine infection. Back then, like our doctor made house calls, which very ineffective. I mean, very you can imagine if you're a doctor or whoever, and if you're making house calls, it takes you a while to get your stuff done. And of course, doctors went to where they had a doctor's office, and then then you can line the patients up, put them in a room, have them in the waiting room, and then have them go inside to the room, and then you're in there, waiting in that little room, and that type of stuff. And much better way for the doctors and for the patients, because I don't know how many times, a hearing ear pain, severe ear, and the doctor didn't show up till like a day or two later, and he said something about, well, if I'd have come, telling me, well, if I'd have come, I'd have had to lance that, but it's already drained or something like that. And I thought, thank God. And then my mother, who I never called mother, I called my parents Jim and Betty all my life. But Betty would ask me several, are you having, yeah, I'm having, having some pain. And she'd want to give me a laxative, No, I don't want any laxative, But then she would, I guess I wasn't too smart. Then she'd say, she never came around and said, do you want a Coke? Except I drank Pepsi then. I drank Pepsi until I got married at age 26. I didn't, and Darlene drank Coke. And I didn't see any reason for her to be buying Coke and buying Pepsi, so I just started drinking what she did, which was Coke. But anyway, my mother then would quite often say, oh. Well, anyway, I know she called him a few times saying that I had maybe appendicitis, and he came. And of course, if it had got there sooner, I might have had, had the appendix taken out, and there probably wouldn't have been anything wrong with him, But anyway, my mother would come and say, oh, Jimmy, would you like a Coke? I'd be in my room listening to shortwave radio, and stuff. And I'd say, yeah. And then she'd bring me a glass of Coke, or a glass of Coke, with a bottle that was opened or whatever. And I found out eventually when I was grown or whatever that she was, she'd ask her, are you having pain? Yeah, I'm having some pain or whatever. Oh, you're probably constipated, or you want, no. And then so she'd say, would you like a Coke? And I'd say yes, and she would bring, and I found out later that she was, I thought, something wrong with that situation, something wrong with that situation. But anyway, I'd have probably had my appendix out. But anyway, the doctor always showed up late. Because they had to, But back then, I would hear the doctor's, footsteps, and he'd show with his black bag. And as soon as he showed up, I felt better. And he always opened up his bag and, here, take this, So, anyway, my son's home from the hospital, and his birthday was on the 10th. Today's the 20th, and he showed up here the 19th, I believe, yesterday, I think. And so Hillary is picking up a cake for him, and whatever we want from Whataburger. So I'm going to have, I think my son and my ex-wife, I think they're having double cheeseburgers, I believe, and French fries or onion rings or something like that. And I'm going to have a regular hamburger, not not double or anything like that. And I'm going to have French fries, and I'm going to have a small malt. Except I tell Hillary sometimes I want a strawberry malt, and I'll say a small one, and she always buys the large, the large one. I'm a diabetic. I shouldn't be drinking a strawberry malt, but they are so good. Not sure if in any other country. In Holland, do we have, is there Whataburger there? I wonder. I'll find out. I have at least 2 people that are in Holland, probably more. It's interesting. Sometimes people will contact me and say, "Oh, I've been watching your videos and blogs and that kind of stuff for X number of years, and this is the first time I can't imagine watching somebody's that long and not leaving a comment or something." So I guess I better stop here because I want to try to keep these videos shorter. I made a couple recently that were an hour long, which is not unusual. And then I made one that was like 2 hours. 2 hours is too long. I thank you for watching. Please leave a thumbs up. I don't know what, I guess read the things below and see if there's something you can click on. Thank you very much for watching.